I transmigrated. As soon as I opened my eyes, an extremely ugly man was looking down at me and said, "Maria, if you kiss the ugliest man in the room, I'll add your contact back." I was shocked. Isn't the ugliest person here you? I followed his gaze to a corner where a handsome man in a white shirt was sitting, his face cold and his lips pressed together. Later, I found out that this was a world with reversed aesthetics. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Maria, hurry up, go kiss him. When I arrived here, the noise around me was getting louder and louder. Kiss who? I blinked in confusion and heard the voices around me continue with glee. Andrew is really something, making Maria kiss the ugliest. Ha ha ha, isn't the ugliest one just? This trick is brilliant, it humiliates that guy and messes with Maria. Saying this, that person winked and gestured in a direction. I instinctively followed his gaze. Damn! My eyes, my eyes. I saw a man so ugly that he could turn me into a meme, sitting in the main seat surrounded by people. When he saw me looking, he hugged the woman next to him tighter and raised his eyebrows to urge me. Maria, we agreed, I said, the universally recognized ugliest, don't try to cheat. As long as you kiss him, I'll immediately add your contact back. Are you kidding me? Look around, is there anyone uglier than you? Besides, did you say it wrong? You add my contact back? Is this some reversed logic? The ugly man, Andrew, seeing that I wasn't moving, thought I couldn't find the target. He gestured again, and I instinctively followed his gaze. Guess what? My eyes, which were almost blinded, suddenly healed. I saw a group of people sitting on the opposite side, but unlike this side. The main seat there was occupied by a handsome man with a cold expression. The moment I saw him, I felt like his appearance lit up the entire dim bar. Ignoring Andrew, I tightened my lips and my voice trembled slightly. You want me to kiss him? I want you to kiss the ugliest person in the room. Andrew laughed maliciously, his gaze fixed on the opposite side. I nodded, feeling a bit sorry for him. Not only is he ugly and mean, but he also has bad eyesight. Hearing the increasingly bold jeers, I no longer hesitated. This wasn't humiliation, it was a blessing. Most importantly, I fell in love with the handsome guy at first sight. The people around the handsome guy obviously heard the previous jeers, glaring at me to get lost. I ignored them and sat directly next to him. I saw a trace of inexplicable humiliation flash in his eyes. I was puzzled. I'm not bad-looking, even if I don't kiss him, he shouldn't feel humiliated, right? Without thinking further, I opened my mouth to confess. At this moment, the handsome guy glanced at Andrew's side and said with a hint of sarcasm, Edwin, may be ugly, but I only kiss my girlfriend. Huh? Handsome guy, do you hear yourself? You think you're ugly? You think you're ugly. You could debut right now. But that's not the point. Feeling a warmth in my heart, I grabbed his hand and asked, Do you have a girlfriend? Edwin paused before saying, No. Not giving him a chance to continue, I quickly answered, Well, now you do. If you don't say anything, I'll take it as your consent. Since I'm your girlfriend, can I kiss you now? Edwin looked at me, then laughed self-deprecatingly and leaned casually against the sofa. For Andrew, you're willing to go this far. His lazy demeanor almost made me lose my mind. Knowing he misunderstood, I straightened up and leaned on the sofa. Looking into his eyes, I softly praised them, then kissed him directly. Edwin looked at me in shock, the soft touch of his lips making me linger. The onlookers all gasped. The next second, Andrew's angry voice rang out, Maria. What are you doing? I wanted to continue my interaction with Edwin. But Andrew was too noisy. Impatiently, I turned back. Are you blind? I'm kissing my boyfriend. Edwin took the opportunity to hold my waist. What followed was chaos. Andrew came over to pull me away, Edwin protected me, and the two groups started fighting. Later, I learned that these two were archenemies. Andrew just wanted to use me to humiliate Edwin. On the way back to the dormitory, I looked at the legendary starry sky roof, then glanced at him. He still looks the best. Why are you staring at me? Because you look handsome. As soon as I spoke, Edwin's expression turned very strange. Maria, considering we're classmates, I've already helped you out today. Don't push your luck. What does he mean? Is he going to back out? I hurriedly spoke up. I wasn't joking before. I really want you to be my boyfriend. Please, date me. As long as you date me, I'll be willing to drive luxury cars and live in a mansion. Edwin laughed in exasperation. After a while, he asked, "Do you really think I'm good-looking?" I nodded frantically. Isn't this something anyone with eyes can see? If I wasn't afraid of moving too fast and scaring him, I wouldn't even be returning to the dorm tonight. He smiled ever so slightly. Since you're my girlfriend, you can't be entangled with Andrew anymore. I agreed without hesitation. I never thought I'd have such a lucky day. When we arrived at the dormitory building, after agreeing on a time to meet tomorrow, I hesitated to get out of the car. Edwin asked me, "Do you have something else to say?" I fiddled with my fingers, glanced at the driver embarrassedly, and said in a low voice, "Shouldn't couples do something before saying goodbye?" He raised an eyebrow, and the driver tactfully got out of the car. A few minutes later, I entered the dormitory building with swollen lips. In the car, Edwin was watching my back. "Maria, you better not be lying to me." As soon as I entered the dormitory, a mocking voice rang out. "Oh, our famous simp is back? Why are you back so early today? Don't you need to run errands for Andrew?" The speaker was Lucia, who has never gotten along with me. I couldn't be bothered to respond to her and went to wash up before getting into bed. Maria and I had swapped bodies, and we had only briefly explained each other's situations. There was really no need to explain anything to these almost strangers of roommates. Happily, I picked up my phone to ask Edwin if he had gotten home. When I opened my phone, I saw a friend request. It was from Andrew. He used a condescending tone to say that since I had listened to him, he would add my contact back. I rolled my eyes. Maria had only told me that the guy she liked was named Andrew. She didn't mention that not only was he ugly, but he also had a terrible personality. I accepted his friend request, and seeing the typing indicator, I immediately blocked him. The next morning, my roommates were surprised to see me still in the dorm. "Aren't you going to deliver breakfast to Andrew today?" I looked up from my chat with Edwin. "Don't mention Andrew anymore. I have a boyfriend now." "What? Really? Who is it?" Before I could speak, Lucia mocked again. "Come on, you have a boyfriend? Everyone in the school knows you're Andrew's simp. You're just playing hard to get to attract Andrew's attention." For some reason, the way they talked about Andrew made it seem like he was some big deal. Before I could ask, someone knocked on our dormitory door. "Maria, someone is looking for you downstairs." It must be Edwin. He could have just messaged me. I happily hopped downstairs. From a distance, I saw a tall figure in a white shirt waiting at the dorm entrance with his back to me. I ran up and hugged him from behind. "I missed you so much after one night." The next second, Andrew's smug voice sounded above me. "Maria, you really are playing hard to get." I was shocked and immediately stood up straight. Oh no, I hugged the wrong person. What's worse, Edwin had arrived at some point and was standing nearby, having seen the whole scene. Andrew looked provocatively at Edwin, reaching out to wrap his arm around me. I straightened up and swiftly moved to Edwin's side. Rules of the streets, no killing during a dodge. Let me explain. Actually, you can't blame me for mistaking him. For some reason, Andrew and Edwin have very similar builds and dressing styles. Plus, last night after leaving the bar, I got into Edwin's car, so I didn't have a chance to see his back. Fortunately, although Edwin's expression wasn't good, he didn't turn around and leave immediately. Before I could continue explaining, Andrew's annoying voice rang out again. "Explain what, Maria? Didn't you approach him just to spite me? Now that I'm here to find you personally, hurry up and tell him to get lost before I get angry." Andrew looked at Edwin with an indescribable sense of superiority. I grabbed Edwin's hand and retorted, "Just go away." Acting like a lunatic. What does it have to do with you when I'm talking to my boyfriend? Some students passing by the dorm building stopped to watch the commotion, occasionally whispering words like campus heartthrob and ugly guy. I didn't care. With Edwin's looks, being a campus heartthrob was more than enough. Boyfriend? Him? Maria, are you crazy? Have you looked at what he looks like? Andrew looked shocked and disdainful. Edwin silently tightened his grip on my hand. He must be trying to comfort me. Oh my boyfriend is so kind. Damn Andrew, Edwin hasn't said anything. What right does he have to manipulate me? So I said, Maria, a young person who upholds good morals and values. A Nobel Literature Prize reader, a participant in billion-dollar lottery projects. An applicant to Fortune 500 companies, a senior buyer on major shopping platforms. And one of the best dorm mates in the girls' dormitory. Am I not good enough for his looks? A hint of a smile flashed in Edwin's eyes. Andrew really hit a brick wall with me. I continued my counterattack. And you dare to criticize my looks? Have you seen your big square face, mung bean eyes, flat nose, sausage lips, and protruding ears? Just one more look at you and I feel like calling the police. You should compensate me for the mental anguish. As soon as I finished speaking, Andrew's previously resentful face slowly turned a bit red with embarrassment. He pursed his lips and said, Maria, I know you like me, but there's no need to praise me like that. I immediately clutched my chest, took 3 steps back, and fell into Edwin's arms. Too scary. Edwin, let's go quickly, he's really sick. Sitting in Edwin's car, I patted my chest, still shaken. Andrew's confidence scared me. Edwin was busy with his phone, sending some messages, and only looked up at me after a while. I remember I told you last night not to get entangled with Andrew. It's not my fault. I immediately explained the whole sequence of events. Before Edwin could speak, I continued. I know no matter what, I mistook him for someone else just now, and I won't make excuses. So as a punishment, can you kiss me in a secluded place? Edwin looked at me helplessly. There was still a driver in the car, so that kiss never happened. Edwin said he didn't want to hear what I said to Andrew again. I nodded, thinking he was really nice. Andrew was so annoying, yet Edwin still cared about his dignity. No wonder he's the man I fancy. The restaurant Edwin booked was a private club with a serene and elegant environment. But the looks of the service staff were somewhat concerning. I leaned close to him and whispered, the owner here is quite kind. Edwin looked at me, puzzled. I covered my mouth with my hand and murmured. I thought a place like this would have certain standards for the appearance of their staff. But it turns out they're quite down to earth. Edwin's eyes flashed. You think they're ugly? I scratched my head, thinking since they don't rely on their looks or me for a living, I should be tactful, they're just not to my taste. After saying that, I turned the table to grab the just-served squirrel-shaped mandarin fish, completely unaware of Edwin's thoughtful expression. After dinner, Edwin originally planned to take me to play golf. Finding it boring, I suggested going to the mall instead. He paused for a moment, then agreed. But he wore a mask the whole time. When Edwin walked me back to the dorm, my hands were full of shopping bags. We had gone to the mall in the afternoon, and he bought everything I looked at for more than a second. Eventually, I had to walk straight ahead without looking around. Wow, did you hit the jackpot? Lucia glanced at the bags on the table and immediately started teasing me. Edwin really is a big spender, so she wasn't wrong. Seeing that I wasn't responding, Lucia's eyes lit up. Could this big spender be Edwin? I heard about what happened this morning. You even tried to hook up with him to get Andrew's attention. I was confused. Is Andrew the center of the universe or something? I finally understood where his mysterious confidence came from. But it's strange, Andrew's family is rich, and Edwin's family isn't lacking either. Otherwise, they wouldn't be rivals. Why do they only praise Andrew? I went along and asked Lucia. She widened her eyes and then burst into laughter. Maria, are you out of your mind? Andrew is the campus heartthrob. How can you compare him to that ugly Edwin? Huh? What? What was she talking about? Such a niche language. Who's the heartthrob, and who's the ugly one? In a flash, various details connected in my mind. I pointed at my face and asked Lucia, "Do you think I'm pretty or ugly?" Lucia looked at me with slight disdain, "A little bit ugly." All right, this is apparently a world with reversed aesthetics. Now I've really become a clown. No wonder I always felt something was off about Edwin. Turns out, this was the issue. Realizing the truth of this world, I didn't act rashly. In this situation, saying anything to Edwin would sound sarcastic. But every time I saw his face, I felt like I had found a gold mine that the world overlooked. I didn't make a big deal about being with Edwin, so many people still thought I was pining for Andrew. One day, as soon as I entered the classroom, someone mocked. "Isn't this Maria? Did she go to the wrong classroom?" Andrew's class is in the next building. The original Maria was notorious for being Andrew's sycophant. Andrew was always late to class and couldn't get a good seat. So the original Maria would save a seat for him and rush back to her own class only after he arrived. Sometimes, because of a word from Andrew, she had to save seats for his roommates too. The original Maria worked hard to please Andrew for 2 years without getting even basic respect in return. Thinking of this, I waved my hand. "Who's Andrew? I only have my boyfriend in my eyes now." With that, I sat down next to Edwin amidst their shocked stares. "No way, is this for real? Is she trying to make Andrew jealous?" "Actually, I heard a bit about the bar incident last time. Am I the only one who thinks it's normal for Maria to be heartbroken?" As discussions erupted around us, Edwin frowned and turned around. The chatter instantly died down. I didn't realize he was so intimidating. Resting my chin on my hand, I looked at him with a smile. Edwin suddenly said, "If it bothers you, I can sit in the back." Bother? Bother about what? Bother about people talking because my boyfriend is too handsome? I leaned closer to him. "Edwin, have you ever heard the saying, 'A husband's appearance is a wife's pride'?" Even with my thick skin, I felt a bit shy after saying that. So I added, "What I mean is, you are my pride. I can handle their envious looks." Edwin looked at me and suddenly smiled. I was completely mesmerized and didn't even catch what he whispered. Then I remembered, this is a world with reversed aesthetics. What I just said might have sounded sarcastic. No, what I mean is, my taste is different from the mainstream. That didn't seem right either. I mean, to me, you are the handsome one. Why did it feel like the more I explained, the worse it got? Seeing my flustered state, Edwin curved his lips and gently tapped my forehead, saying softly, "No need to explain, I understand." In less than one class period, the news that I was with Edwin had spread like wildfire. Andrew called me several times from different numbers, but I didn't answer. Lucia looked at me mockingly. "Some people are just shameless, but it makes sense. A pot has a lid that fits it. With your big eyes and small mouth, round face. You can only match someone with sharp eyebrows, starry eyes, and a high nose bridge." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Lucia was furious. "What are you laughing at?" I tried to suppress my laughter. "Insult me more, I love it." Summer is rainy, and not long after I returned to the dormitory, it started to pour outside. I was happily texting Edwin when suddenly I heard someone shouting my name downstairs. I opened the window and looked out, and instantly felt a chill down my spine. Oh my God, a water ghost. A water ghost coming ashore for revenge? A man in a white shirt was standing in the rain downstairs. His shirt soaked through, and his short hair plastered to his scalp. Seeing me poke my head out, he wiped his face. "Maria! Maria!" I admit I was scared at that moment. I was trembling. I shakily asked my roommates, "Can you see the person downstairs?" Lucia came over to take a look, and instantly covered her mouth. I thought she was scared too, but instead, she looked at me with teary eyes. "That's Andrew." So romantic, just like a beautiful idol drama. I was speechless. Sometimes I really want to call the police. This world with its upside-down aesthetics is simply terrifying. Andrew saw me shrink back and called my name even louder. I put in my earplugs and lay down on the bed. Rainy days are perfect for naps. Lucia, while scolding me for being heartless, grabbed an umbrella and rushed downstairs. I don't know how she eventually persuaded Andrew to leave, but I had several peaceful days. After dating for a while, I found that Edwin and I are compatible in many ways. He appears to be a cold and aloof male god, but in reality, he's just a secret show-off. Whenever we take a walk and I happen to glance at the boys playing basketball on the field, I'll see him posting photos of his abs on social media that night. Every time I like his post, he deletes it immediately. After a few times, I caught on. When Edwin posted photos again, I casually mentioned to my roommate. Edwin just posted something quite artistic on his feed. Artistic indeed. He seemed to be casually leaning against the sofa, with his collarbone and Adam's apple faintly visible through his shirt. Huh? Did he post something? My roommate looked puzzled as she scrolled through her phone. At this moment, Lucia suddenly said, "Maria, you don't really think Edwin is that great, do you?" Here we go again. If not? His jawline is so sharp, his brows are so high, and his lips are so thin. Besides being good at studying, having fair skin, and a decent aura, how does he compare to Andrew? I think your taste is warped. So she was still holding a grudge for Andrew. You can't discuss ice with a summer insect, so I didn't argue. You're right, from your perspective, my taste is indeed warped. In my eyes, Edwin is super handsome. Lucia's eyes lit up as if she had an idea. She immediately took out a few photos for me to choose from. The handsome men and beautiful women I picked were unanimously deemed ugly by them. My roommate looked at me sympathetically, and I shrugged helplessly. Perception is something that can't be improved on a wrong basis. It's like a dung beetle thinking dung is the best thing in the world. I was wrong. I shouldn't have insulted dung beetles. At least dung beetles don't resort to kidnapping. Just a few hours ago, Edwin finally agreed to go somewhere private and kiss me. Before I could move my sinful hand towards his waist, Lucia called to say there was a problem with the scholarship application I submitted a few days ago and asked me to go to the counselor's office. Edwin was going to accompany me, but he also received a call just then. Later, when I came out of the office, I casually took the bottled water Lucia handed me and took a sip. When I woke up, I was lying weakly on a couch. Not far away, Andrew was talking to someone in a white coat. "Doctor, she might have been triggered by me before and suddenly developed a fetish for ugliness. As long as you cure her, I'll pay any amount." The doctor nodded and said he would make some preparations. Andrew walked over and looked down at me. "I knew you wouldn't fall for someone else for no reason. Turns out you have a fetish for ugliness. Don't worry, I'll cure you. As long as you recover, I'll forgive you and let you stay by my side." How narcissistic of him to think that not liking him means I'm sick. Andrew gave an evil smile. "Maria, I admit you successfully caught my attention. You're really smart this time, knowing that I detest Edwin the most. He's just an ugly guy with outstanding abilities. Why do people say that besides my face, I'm inferior to him in every way? I will wear similar styles to him, I will humiliate him. Is it possible that, in terms of looks alone, you're also miles behind him? But now is not the time to discuss this. This is kidnapping. Aren't you afraid I'll call the police?" Andrew raised his hand and touched my face. "I'm just treating your illness. Once you're cured, I'll let you go." Seeing the approaching psychiatrist, I panicked. I knew I wasn't sick, but I was afraid he'd give me the wrong medication. I wanted to resist, but the drug's effect hadn't worn off, and I was too weak. As the hypnotic voice started, my consciousness became increasingly hazy. It seemed like a long time had passed, or maybe just a few minutes. Suddenly, a loud noise erupted beside me as someone kicked the door open. When I opened my eyes, a disheveled Edwin appeared before me. Sweat was dripping from his forehead as he pulled me into his arms. "Maria, are you okay?" His voice trembled slightly. I wanted to raise my hand to hug him back, but my body pushed him away uncontrollably. Then I heard my own voice. She said, "Who are you? Don't touch me." Edwin's face turned pale. Then my world went dark. The original Maria is back. Other than that, I can't think of another possibility. Sure enough, in the evening, her slightly apologetic voice echoed in my mind. "An accident, Purely an accident. I sneered, it's an occasional accident now, but won't there be frequent accidents in the future? She loudly proclaimed her innocence, saying she got knocked out while trying to save someone over there, and somehow ended up back here. We say it's a soul swap, but it's really just each of us returning to our rightful places after being born in the wrong bodies. Then she said, "Was that your boyfriend today?" He was so. My voice carried a hint of threat. Nothing, he's quite good. I clicked my tongue, feeling quite cheated. With the same appearance, I was a beauty in the previous world, but here I've become a clown. So I said, from now on, I'll be Maria, and you'll be Marina, so we can distinguish between us. Why should I? Because you became a beauty in my original world, and I became a clown in yours. Marina gave a sheepish smile and didn't argue. Then we chatted about our current situations. Until I got a bit sleepy, she didn't mention Andrew, so I couldn't help but say, he didn't notice. Andrew never realized that Maria had been swapped. He just thought I was sick because of Lucia. Marina paused, then started talking about how she used to chase after Andrew. In our aesthetic view, Andrew is indeed the school heartthrob. Chasing a guy, it's normal to make some effort. Apart from being called a simp a few times, I didn't lose anything. Love is voluntary, no regrets after it's over. She was quite carefree about it. Thinking about it, it's true. From the moment I first saw Edwin, I was very proactive. When you meet someone you like, pursuing them boldly isn't shameful. I thought this would be the last time I saw Marina, and she'd go back the next day when I woke up. But something happened, and when I opened my eyes again, 3 months had passed. And now, it seemed like I was imprisoned. Without any communication devices, I couldn't understand the situation. Fortunately, Marina had some conscience and left a note for me on the dressing table. I slowly unfolded it and saw 2 big words written on it. Bye-bye. It turns out that when you're extremely speechless, you really can laugh out loud. At this moment, the sound of the door handle turning suddenly came from the doorway. I cautiously retreated to the corner. The next second, Edwin walked in with a tray. After not seeing him for 3 months, his jawline had become much sharper. And his aura had gone from cold to even more unapproachable. I breathed a sigh of relief and quickly walked over. "Why have you lost so much weight?" Edwin was stunned for a moment, hesitantly saying, "Maria?" I responded, and was immediately pulled into his tight embrace. "I thought you would never come back." He told me he noticed I had changed after waking up. Although I didn't explicitly break up with him, I started avoiding him. I wouldn't reply to his messages, answer his calls, or see him when he waited downstairs. This stalemate lasted for 2 months. Rumors gradually spread in the school, saying I was toying with Edwin's feelings for Andrew, deliberately stringing him along. He didn't believe it at first. Until he accidentally saw me meeting Andrew alone and heard some ambiguous words. The rain soaked his shirt, and his heart shattered. If this were a story of chasing a husband to the crematorium, next would be him finding a better girl, and I would regret it deeply. If this were a campus love-hate story, next would be the classic love triangle where he loves her, and she loves him. But Edwin turned dark. He took the villain route and imprisoned me. Speaking of imprisonment, I tilted my head. Why didn't you tie me to the bed and do this and that? Marina probably had a fluke mentality, always thinking maybe one day she'd wake up. And she'd go back, and I'd come back, so she didn't explain things clearly to Edwin. Until she was locked up by Edwin and cut off from the internet for 2 days. I buried my head in Edwin's neck and sniffed. "Since it's all explained, you can let her go first." Edwin lowered his eyes without saying a word, just holding me so tightly that it hurt. At this moment, I still didn't know what it meant to speak of the devil. Until the next morning, when I groggily tried to go to the bathroom, and almost tripped over the chain on my right foot. When Edwin came in with milk tea and snacks, I was studying recipes on my tablet. It was the first time I had seen him looking so down to earth. Seeing him approach, I guiltily flipped the tablet over. He frowned and felt my forehead. "Why is your face so red? Are you feeling unwell?" My eyes flickered, and I cleared my throat, not answering his question. Instead, I lifted my foot onto his leg, making the chains clink. "Aren't you going to explain?" Edwin grabbed my ankle. His palm was hot, and I shivered, trying to pull back, but he held me tighter. He looked at me and said softly, "As you can see." I closed my eyes, lowered my head, and tried not to let him see my expression. Then I suppressed the smile tugging at my lips. Finally, it's the exciting captivity play stage. Of course, I know this is wrong. But what mistake did Edwin make? He's just a handsome, wealthy, 6 feet 1 inch guy with abs, sensitive and lacking a sense of security, and utterly pure-hearted. What can I do? Of course, I forgive him. Seeing me lower my head, Edwin was about to say something. I quickly spoke first, solemnly. Aren't you afraid the school will find out and call the police? My company has provided internship slots to the school, and your name is on the list. I thought about my preset lines and continued, "Edwin, are you crazy?" He lowered his head and kissed the corner of my mouth. Yes, I'm crazy. If I don't see you, I go crazy. I immediately said seriously, "If you're sick, you need treatment." Just so happens I know a bit about medicine. Edwin raised an eyebrow without speaking. I cleared my throat, ahem. Take off your clothes, let me check your abs to diagnose the illness. Edwin is someone who, when you say he's conservative, he kisses with fierce aggression. When you say he's open, he always stops just short of crossing the line. I thought the role-playing game would end here, but Edwin said, "All right." He grabbed my hand and guided it under his shirt, then leaned in close to my ear. "Just now, before I came in, what were you looking at on the tablet?" Looking at what? Of course, I was looking at cooking recipes. But how did he know? Sweat trickled down my back, and my face turned crimson. The awkwardness of being caught red-handed overwhelming me. Edwin chuckled lightly and brushed my face. Then next, "Dr. Maria, please treat me well." As 2 intern chefs who had only studied recipes, we were inevitably a bit clumsy when we first got our hands on the tools. The weight, rhythm, and heat control were all a bit off. Especially at first, the equipment didn't quite fit. Edwin and I adjusted repeatedly for quite a while. After stumbling through the first dish, we finally got a hang of it. So, the physically fit chef Edwin led me into a second round of exploration. With the combination of theory and practice, we became more and more in sync. The sound of kitchen tools clashing echoed occasionally in the room. After a short and intense stir-fry, the aroma of food filled the air. Edwin leaned in and kissed the corner of my mouth, and I happily nestled into his arms. All my months of diligently studying recipes finally paid off with Edwin enjoying the meal. But my joy didn't last long before it was replaced by sadness. Because Edwin, holding me, said something. He said, "Maria, it's only now that I feel you truly love me." I was stunned, and a wave of sorrow washed over me. I suddenly felt like I had done something wrong. I had always been carefree, even when I swapped places with Marina. And came to this world with reversed aesthetics, it didn't feel real. When Edwin said he was ugly, I subconsciously thought he was just being modest. I ignored his real feelings. I forgot that Edwin genuinely grew up in this world, and his looks, which I found admirable, would be met with as much discrimination and disdain in this world. I had never considered telling him the truth until he faced Marina alone. "Edwin, I'm sorry." Before I could finish my apology, Edwin lowered his head and kissed me. His voice trembled slightly. "Don't say it, Maria, you haven't wronged me. I just need to know that it was never one-sided on my part, and that's enough." But it's not enough. I stopped apologizing and started talking about what happened with Marina. I should have told Edwin a long time ago, but I had misjudged the situation. After listening, Edwin tightened his grip on my waist. I held my breath, waiting for him to say something. After a while, he finally said in a low voice, "So, you were attracted to me because of my looks." Did he have to be so blunt? Seeing him turn away in a huff, I hurriedly said, "Hey, let me explain." I didn't notice that the heavy atmosphere had lifted because of this. In the following days, Edwin didn't unlock my chains, nor did I mention it. So during the day, Edwin tutored me, and at night, he cooked delicious meals for me. Sometimes, when he went to the company for meetings, I would curl up on the sofa watching movies, playing games, and taking naps with the air conditioner on. Unfortunately, these good days didn't last long before Andrew showed up. Seeing Andrew sneakily appear in front of me, I was completely confused. Andrew, however, was very excited. I knew I couldn't find you anywhere. You were indeed illegally detained by Edwin. How did you get in? There were few people in the villa, but the security was still good. Andrew looked smug. Don't worry about that. Anyway, I've already called the police. While Edwin isn't back yet, you should come with me. I frowned. How do you know Edwin isn't here? Of course I know. I saw him kneel. Anyway, I'm here to rescue you. Just come with me. Andrew finished speaking and tried to pull my chain. I impatiently kicked him over. Maria, are you crazy? I'm here to save you. I gave him a disdainful look, then took the key from the drawer of the bedside table and unlocked the chain with a click. Edwin never intended to really imprison me. Initially, he was just playing along with me, and later, I wanted to give him a sense of security. I wanted to show Edwin that I wouldn't leave him. I looked at Andrew on the ground. Do you have any other business? Andrew was stunned. Fine, you actually played such a trick with Edwin behind my back. He was so angry that his face twisted and his eyes turned red. Then, he actually started crying? He said, Maria, you weren't like this before. His crying was so ugly that I gasped. I know you want to cry, but don't cry just yet. Your immediate task is to find a swan. Andrew paused for a moment before realizing I was calling him a toad lusting after a swan. Seeing that his soft approach wasn't working, he decided to stop crying and tried to take me away by force. Maria, you used to be my lapdog. Do you think I really cared about you? I just wanted to make Edwin uncomfortable. You were clearly cured a while ago, but I didn't expect your ugly fetish to relapse so quickly. Andrew was very strong, and to avoid being taken away by him, I clung tightly to the edge of the bed. While we were struggling, Edwin came back. The bedroom door was ajar, and as soon as Edwin came in, he saw Andrew almost holding me in his arms. He rushed over, grabbed Andrew by the collar, and punched him. Then he asked me in a low voice if I was hurt. I shook my head, stood up, and gave Andrew, who was lying on the floor, an extra kick. Just then, the police arrived. Originally, Andrew had called the police to accuse Edwin of illegal detention. But it turned out he had dug his own grave. I remembered the time he had tied me up and taken me to the psychiatric clinic. So I decided to settle both old and new scores. I even reported Lucia as well. Edwin's lawyer said that Andrew had committed the crime of illegal entry into a residence. And if we pressed charges, he would go to jail. Andrew's family wanted to settle, but Edwin did not agree. He said that he could overlook the minor conflicts of the past, but I was his bottom line. And Andrew had offended me twice, so he couldn't let him go again. By the time we left the police station, it was already very dark. Thinking about what had just happened, I teased Edwin. I thought you'd be so angry seeing Andrew pulling and tugging at me that you'd run out. You should read fewer novels in the future. Haha, who was it back then who saw Marina and Andrew talking alone and... Edwin expressionlessly raised his hand and pinched my mouth into a duck's beak. I giggled. It's so nice. He is Edwin. He is the one I love. He never needs to feel inferior. Later, I asked Edwin what Andrew was up to when he sneaked in those 2 days. He fiddled with the vermilion bracelet on my hand and said he had gone to get this. Does it really take 2 days to get a bracelet? I wanted to ask more, but Edwin nonchalantly started unpacking a delivery. When I saw the white lab coat he shook out, my eyes lit up instantly. Wow, we're playing Dr. Cosplay tonight. Extra story, Edwin. As far back as I can remember, I knew I wasn't good looking. Every time I went out, I would attract people's sideways glances. At first, I didn't understand, but later I gradually realized it was disdain. Appearance is given by parents, and I never thought of changing it. But I was unwilling to fail just because of my looks. So I maximized everything I could control. Knowledge, skills, physique. Gradually, I gained recognition, even attracting some jealousy. I knew about Andrew. People often praised his looks but kept silent about his abilities and character. For his little provocations against me, I didn't really care. I had many ways to fight back. But he could only insult my appearance. After another provocation from Andrew, I thought I would just laugh it off as usual, then secretly take a piece out of his company. But then Maria appeared. It was the first time I saw genuine affection and admiration in someone's eyes. Because of my family background, there were actually no shortage of girls showing goodwill towards me. But their eyes held nothing but restraint. Maria was different. Her aesthetics seemed different too. I had heard people say this might be a psychological disorder. But I still fell for her. I coveted the admiration and passion in her eyes. I had never been in a relationship and didn't know how to make a girl happy. The internet said to be generous when going out with a girl, so I would immediately buy anything she glanced at. Later, seeing her walk without looking around, I realized belatedly that I might have overdone it. Maria liked people with good physiques. Thankfully I had never slacked off. I didn't dare get too close to her, fearing she might regret it one day and despise me. Ahem, but showing her some photos was okay. I thought these days would continue forever. But unexpectedly, Andrew took Maria away. I regretted it. No one knew how panicked I was when I kicked open the clinic door. If Maria was really cured, would she still love me? What would I do then? I helped Maria up and heard her say, "Don't touch me," and suddenly my ears were ringing. Maria seemed different. She started avoiding me, even meeting Andrew alone. Just seeing some changes in her habits, I always felt there was something I was missing. So I did what I had always wanted to do deep down. I imprisoned Maria. Seeing her eyes dodge and her guilty expression, she was completely different from the Maria I remembered. So after locking her in the room and cutting off the internet for 2 days, she finally confessed. She said she was Marina. She and Maria had swapped bodies, there was an accident on her end. And my Maria didn't know when she could come back. I didn't dare think deeply. Every day I could only numb myself with study and work. Occasionally, I would go see Marina, each time hopeful, each time disappointed. I gradually became afraid. But next time, I would still go. Just over a month later, my Maria finally came back. She seemed to sense my unease, so she went along with my wishes. But how could I really bear to confine her? She could pursue everything she wanted, but she had to stay in this world. My Maria, I will never tell you. The vermilion bracelet on your hand, I prayed for it step by step. Just to keep you in this world. Maybe I never truly got better, just learned to disguise better.